Today I'm talking with Kelly Sullivan about sound healing with Tibetan singing bowls. I bought my first bowl in Nepal when I was 17. I was on a photographic expedition with school, and after trekking through the Himalayas, we were shopping in a market in Kathmandu, and I fell in love with these beautiful metal bowls. So I took one home as a souvenir, and then it collected dust on my shelf because I didn't understand the therapeutic power of the bowls until I moved to LA and discovered sound baths through a friend, and I was hooked. Since then, sound therapy has become a non negotiable part of my self care for decades now. So, when I moved back to Australia, I was looking for some gifted sound practitioners. And Alana Kazakovich, my kinesiologist, who you may remember from episode 53, introduced me to Kelly. So, I had a private session with her, and it was incredible. Kelly is a sound healing practitioner, a Reiki master, and yoga nidra meditation teacher who uses sound and energy to help you relax and combat stress, calm your mind, regulate your nervous system, restore balance, and connect with your own internal rhythm and flow. Oh, I'm really excited for you to hear how she's using Tibetan bowls with Reiki to support better physical and emotional health. So let's dive in and get the skinny from Kelly Sullivan. Oh, Kelly, I'm so excited to talk to you about your journey with Reiki and sound healing. So, can we start with when you were burnt out in year 12 and then what happened when you then went into uni and how you came to find this work?
Absolutely. Year 12 was full on for me. I mean, I did very well in year 12, but I also had a lot of illness, so like tonsillitis and colds and things like that. And I think also on top of all of that, stress as well didn't help the situation.
Yeah.
And I really did burn myself out. And at the end of year 12, I didn't want to go to uni. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And at that time, there was no real kind of like, oh, you could go and do a trade or you could go and do something hands-on. It was all like, it was either uni, mostly uni, and maybe you could go to TAFE if that's what you really wanted to do. So, or technical college. So, and nothing really interests me because I think I was so burnt out. And I did apply for a visual arts degree. That's what I started, and I lasted a week. And I thought, this is not going to be for me.
That's good that you knew that.
This is not for me. So I ended up working. That was the deal. You know, if I'm not studying, I have to work full time, and so I did. And
What were you doing?
I was actually working at I think I started working as a lifeguard on a water slides at a theme park in South Australia. And so I did that over the summer, and then that turned into being a duty manager at the venue. And I did learn a lot of things, and mum and dad had pubs at the time. So I also worked in hospitality too. But it's not what I wanted to do. And mum kind of said, well, why don't you go and do your working holiday visa over in the UK? And I was like, oh, yeah, I'd like to travel, and maybe we'll see.
Here in Europe, like most Australians.
Yeah, I know, right? But I think actually what happened was I did go back the next year and I started a different degree. So I went back and did interior architecture, and still again, I think I was just so burnt out. I lasted until Easter holidays, and I was like, no, this is not for me. And I then did go over to England and Europe, and I did my working holiday visa for 2 years. And then I came back and I actually did my uni degree, which was in visual communication, so graphic design. And during my degree, it was a 3-year degree. So I studied kind of like full-time and worked part-time on the side. And in my sort of like second to third year, I thought, wouldn't it be great if I did some volunteering somewhere in the uni holidays? I thought, this is going to be great. And a girl I went to school with, she had actually been to Nepal. And I thought, right, I'm going to go to Kathmandu. Very random. I kind of do a few little random things. And so that's what I did. I booked a ticket for 2 months to Kathmandu, and I had no idea what I was going to do. but I knew I was going to volunteer for half of that time, and I ended up being in a boys' orphanage just outside of Kathmandu city. And I went to their school every day and taught. It was an English medium school, so I could just pick up the textbook and teach maths or English or science or whatever it was that I was substituting for that day. And yeah, I think that's kind of like where the journey really began, was in that trip, that volunteering, that 2-month period in Kathmandu.
Because that's when you first picked up a Tibetan bowl.
That's right. Yep.
So what was that like?
You know, when I think about it, I didn't really think too much of it. It was like they were everywhere in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's just one of the things that you've got to get when you're in Nepal, in Kathmandu. You get a bowl, and, you know, it was this like tiny little bowl, and it sat on my shelf for ages. And yeah, it was very ornamental rather than how I use them now, I suppose. So yeah.
Oh, it's so interesting. It was ornamental and then it became instrumental.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. So take me into the next It Has to Be Me, where you then started picking up the bowl and you found Reiki and moved away from graphic design and into healing arts.
I think it was probably, I guess the catalyst started at uni again. So I'd finished uni, towards the end of my uni degree. I was studying part-time, working part-time, and also freelancing part-time. And, you know, when you're young, sometimes you think you can do all of it, but I've come to realize you can't do all of it, which is fine. And yeah, that's when I felt really disconnected from myself and where I was going. I felt like I had no purpose. And, you know, I really, there's more than just you. I think you want to feel like you do have a purpose and be able to help. And I wasn't doing that. I just felt really stuck. You know, and everyone around me I felt like everyone knew where they were going and what they were doing. And I was kind of just in limbo, it really felt like, even though I was still churning and burning, really. And so my personal development journey started with a coach, and that was in NLP and timeline therapy. And then I went on to learning that. And through doing that study as well, I thought, you know, I need to learn what Reiki is and how it works. It just kind of like popped into my head one day, and that was it. And I just said, sign me up for the next Reiki course, and I want to learn more about this. And Reiki 1 was great because it taught me how to trust my gut and my intuition. And at that time, I was going through lots of things where I was always second guessing myself. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
Of course.
It's very frustrating. So Reiki really did help me trust. And when I did Reiki 2, that's when I next kind of picked up a bowl and used it in a swap session. I was like, what is going on here? Something is happening with this sound, the vibration. And I thought, that's it. Next time I go to Nepal, I'm going to learn something for myself, because I was always volunteering when I went to Kathmandu. So I'd already been, you know, 3 or 4 times maybe at that point. And I'm like, right, next time I'm going to go and learn what these bowls are all about. And I did. And
take me inside of that a bit more. I want to know about what you learnt in Nepal.
Yeah. So I studied under a singing bowl master, and it was actually at Monkey Temple. So I went to Monkey Temple every day. And I think there was like 3 or 4 of us at that time. And it was actually quite overwhelming when you're learning something new for the first time, and when you're learning something when English is not the first language either. It was also quite challenging. So you know, frantically writing things down and practicing, and yeah, it was really insightful because we were just surrounded by bowls, and I guess we could, we were allowed to play as many as we wanted. And, everyone was really, the people that we were working with, so excited and also very nervous at the same time. But there was actually, where I was staying, there was a gentleman there from Scandinavia. I can't remember which country, but he was also kind of interested in, energy and energy work at the time, and hadn't really kind of like dabbled in anything. But I said, oh, like, would you mind if I practiced on you? And so that's what we did. He was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, so it was really good that I could then go to class during the day. And then after we finished, I was able to practice what I'd learnt on him. And, we had some really cool conversations around sound and energy. And, I just don't think I really appreciated or understood at that particular time. I think when you're learning, you don't probably, I don't have the same appreciation as I do now, I think, about all of the things that I've learned. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really interested, and it was so wonderful to be in session with you using the Reiki and the bowls and the vibration and the sound and light and all of this vibrational energy to tap into what needed to happen in terms of the realignment of my energy. It was really powerful. So you spoke before about not trusting yourself, and Reiki taught you to trust your intuition and instincts. When you were creating your own way of working with people, how did that trust develop for you? Where you learned to keep trusting your intuition as you were basically creating your own unique modality and way of working with people?
Yeah. I think it's a process, and the more you do it, the more you trust. But there is a level of trusting yourself and what you know, working with your own energy first. And I think that's really important, is having a self-practice before you start working with other people. Because to understand your own energy in a space with not only Reiki, but with sound and vibration, is one thing, and you will experience it one way. So when somebody else comes into that same space, because we all are energetically different,
Yeah.
it makes it very easy to distinguish where things are out of alignment, because you know your energy first, and you've got to trust that whatever is happening is for the other person, because you're so used to working with yourself and your energy. So some things like when the bowls sound minusculely different, you've got to trust that that is coming from the other person. And so you build this trust over time. And I love it because everybody is different, and it's always different. Like, the sessions are always different. Things always come up. And even though part of it is intuitive and also trusting your gut and your instincts, there is also set formulas that you're working with, and set patterns and things like that, to help realign and balance and clear as well. Yeah.
So take me inside some of those patterns. So the notes and the different chakras, and how you're listening for the changes in sound and how that corresponds to the different chakras.
Yeah. So I guess when I'm working one-on-one with somebody, I'm using 7 bowls, and there are 7, I guess, main notes in the musical scale. So you've got C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And what happens is those notes are associated with a different energy center, 7 main energy centers. And there are different, I guess, systems, let's call them, that people can work in. I work in a Tibetan system, which is a system of fifths. So a lot of people that work with crystal bowls work with the diatonic musical scale, which is a tone between each chakra. I work in a fifths, and fifths are more is a harmonizing sounds. And I guess the way that I work is that because everything is harmonizing, it's more pleasant to the ears and it helps people to relax a lot quicker and get into sort of that, I want them in that slumber state where they feel like they've been asleep, but they haven't been asleep, sort of where they get the most.
I went to sound sleep on your table.
Well, that's where you get the most rejuvenation, right? So, yeah, that's where I want people. And when people get there, I'm like, perfect. Okay. So well done. But just going back to the notes and the bowls, when I play them, because they're aligned to where the chakras are in the body, I guess the bowls and the sound vibrations are interacting with your biofield or your energetic field, your auric field. And I can quickly pick up which bowls are not sounding right. And I guess those are the ones that I start with first to clear and balance and restore energy to you or the person that I'm working with. Yeah.
And you spoke before about the difference between the crystal bowls and the Tibetan bowls, and why are the Tibetan bowls so special?
Oh, I think I'm a little bit biased, but
I think biased because I love the Tibetan bowls as well.
I think, I mean, for me, because they're handcrafted already, you know, there's that element of tradition being passed down through generations of hand beating metal into shape. As a collective group of people doing that. But not only that, there's, you know, the metals that are used within the bowls relate to different planets and of the solar system. For me, the Tibetan bowls are very grounding. So, you know, bringing people out of their head and back down into their bodies, into the ground, and the metal element of that also helps. But I guess what I love about the bowls is the way that the acoustics and the sound and the resonance that comes from them, because you can pop bowls, like they're so versatile. You can put bowls on the body, you can put bowls on wooden floorboards and feel vibration. You can pop them on, you know, anything and you can feel the vibration.
And you can put water in.
You can put water in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so many things that you can do with metal bowls or Tibetan bowls, Himalayan bowls, whatever you want to call them. And yeah, I just feel like there's so many things that you can do with them, and it creates, for the person working with them, particularly me, because I've been doing it for so long, it keeps things interesting. So, you know, there's lots of versatility for working with them. Yeah.
And what I love is the unique relationship that you create with your bowl. So when I was in your studio and I wanted to buy a bowl, and I looked at all these bowls and I said, well, which one do I pick? And you just smiled and said, well, which one is speaking to you? You pick them up and play them and see which sound resonates with you. And it was just absolutely fascinating to me that I picked up 4 or 5 different bowls that all seemingly looked the same and were the same shape and the same size. And I started playing them and they sounded different.
Yeah.
And that was just fascinating to me. So tell me more about that.
I mean, every bowl is unique, right? So because of the way that they've been handcrafted and hand beaten into shape, no bowl is going to be exactly the same. And that might mean that the sound is just slightly different, even though they are the same note or they resonate at the same note. And with that, because people's energies are different, I guess what happens is they say that the bowl chooses you rather than you choose the bowl.
That's what
and
you said to
I know
me.
that sounds
That's
a
what
bit.
you said to me. No, it's just unbelievable. Yeah.
It sounds a bit, a bit fluffy, but
Yeah.
it really, I mean, it really, that's what happens, because people will play bowls and they're like, oh, there's something in that I don't really like, or they'll pick another bowl up and they'll be like, oh, do you hear the tones in that and the way that the sound bounces in there? And sometimes I don't even hear that, but they're listening to something and they're experiencing something. And that fascinates me as well, because everyone will experience it differently. And yeah, there's, I think, when you're looking for a bowl, the bowl will appear for you. And it's not uncommon that people choose bowls that resonate. I guess, well, they have their own note, but when you look at the chart of the chakras, there'll be something going on for that person in that energy center, and they needed that at the time. So,
Yeah. You described it to me when we were together at that session as a fingerprint.
Yeah.
That they all have their own fingerprint, and it's as unique as that, and each of them has its own threshold.
Yeah.
I think that's what you said to me, and it was just, I went, oh, and yes, I experienced that with you, where one of the bowls just had this high pitched whirring or something that just wasn't going to vibe with me.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't the bowl that was going to pick me.
Yeah.
And then when you showed me how to play them differently, and the sound was so vastly different depending on how you hold it, how you play it, it was a journey and continues to be. So thank you for that. It was a real lesson for me. And how you taught me to build a relationship with the bowl. So tell me more about that.
I think when you're working with something that is a tool, I mean, essentially it is a musical instrument, but it's also a tool. And the only way that you can understand how the bowl wants to play or how it sounds when it's just you in a room, like I was explaining before, is by building that relationship. So having a personal practice, and whether that be, I mean, every day would be nice, but I know realistically that's not possible for everyone. But having a regular practice where you pick up a bowl and you play the bowl in all the different ways that you can. So whether that's singing the bowl, striking the bowl, and understanding at each point, because, a bowl is a circular shape, so there's 360 points on that bowl, and every point on that bowl will play just slightly different because of the way it's been hand beaten. And so to understand how it wants to be played and all of those little nuances, that's what I'm saying about when you're building a relationship with a bowl, so that you understand, oh, I get the best quality sound when I hit it here and here and here and here. And if I want a slightly different sound, I can hit it here and here and here. And I'm sure that's the same with, somebody playing a guitar or a flute. They know, all the nuances of their instrument as well. So, I think it's really important to have build that relationship, and you do that through a personal practice. And that personal practice helps you when you're feeling stressed or angry or maybe happy. And I'm always telling people, play your bowl when you're having a bad day, when you're having a good day, when you're celebrating. It doesn't matter what, you can pick up your bowl and play it, because you can use it for everything and anything, within reason.
Yeah. I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts about the practice helping you slow down, because you can't rush playing the bowl, is what you said to me, and how it really is an instrument that helps you slow down.
Yes. And I still feel like I haven't mastered that quite yet.
Oh, I'm so glad that you said that, because I was thinking, going, am I the only one that wants to rush the ball?
No, and that is a practice within itself. So when you play a bowl, I'm sure as you've experienced, you strike the bowl and the resonance or the sound keeps sounding out. And I guess it is that sounding out or that disdain of a bowl is what you're listening to, right? And it gets to a point where you can play it again. But what happens if you play it too quickly, you start to overplay the bowl, and it'll start to tell you, because you'll get a clunk or a high-pitched sound, or, you know, something won't sound quite right. And so it is this practice of slow and steady. You're listening, and you're listening to the sound vibrations start to dissipate into silence. And there is always that point where you can play the bowl again, like it's not too early to play. And I think when you do have a personal practice, you'll understand where that point is. And each bowl, like you said, is a fingerprint. It's very unique. They'll all be slightly different in the way that they do that. So bigger bowls, they last for a lot longer, or the sound lasts for a lot longer. So you've got to wait for a lot longer. And that can often be frustrating for people, because I guess in this day and age, we're not used to stopping
or waiting
and listening or waiting. Yeah, absolutely.
Or in an instant gratification, 30-second attention span world.
Absolutely. And so
also the sound of the bowl, depending on your mood, like you were saying, play the bowl when you're happy, play the bowl when you're stressed. That's really been illuminating for me, to listen to how different the bowl sounds based on my energy, just like you hear as a practitioner. And it is a practice, and one that I'm certainly not anywhere near mastering, but it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
I was really interested also in your thoughts about when you're feeling stuck and stagnant, where you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Can't find your way out of something, and how sound therapy and working with the bowls can be a really beautiful instrument and tool for navigating that space.
So I guess the sound waves and vibration in general, just by listening to them and the way that they kind of like slow down, they start off fast and then they start to slow down and end up being silent. That process of listening is actually entraining the brain waves. So after, even 5 minutes, the brain waves start to entrain and they start to slow down. So for me, when I'm listening, if I'm doing my own personal practice and I'm listening to the sound of the bowls as they dissipate, I start to feel quite sleepy, and it's quite easy for me to get into that state because I can get into that state quite quickly through the practice. But when your brainwaves start to slow down, you start to access these creative parts of yourself. And for me personally, when I'm feeling stuck, it's because I'm not feeling creative. And I would consider myself a creative person. And a lot of people that I talk to are like, well, I'm not a creative person. But you don't have to be creative in the sense of like drawing and painting and making things. I believe that we create our own life. So what is it that you want to create for yourself? Do you want to, get up every weekend and go for a walk or catch up with friends? Like, what is it that you want to create for yourself? And a lot of people feel stuck because they don't know. And I think sound is a great way to be able to access that creative space by slowing the brain waves down. And it is a practice because it might not happen the first time. But the more you listen to bowls, particularly the Tibetan bowls, the easier it is to get into that sort of like brainwave state where you can access your creativity. And I really think it is about slowing the brainwaves down and having that mental clutter kind of like dissipate somewhere. It'll always be there. It's a practice of learning how to, I guess, let it sort of settle so that whatever it is that I guess you really want to do, which might be creativity, or it might be your intention, or maybe it's a goal, whatever it is, can kind of like come through.
Yeah,
And
it's about
yeah,
receiving differently, isn't it?
yeah,
I love this conversation about creativity and reframing what it means to be a creative person. So I
mm-hmm.
really appreciate you saying that because, yeah, I hear that a lot in my work as well. Well, I'm not a painter, I'm not a sculptor, I'm not a musician, I'm not a writer. We're all creative beings. Yes. So thank you for bringing that into awareness because it is something I think a lot of us struggle with, and how we define ourselves, how we see ourselves, and these limiting beliefs that can get in the way of the possibilities.
Absolutely.
Another thing that's coming up for me as I'm talking to you is the value of stillness and quietness and sitting with oneself. And what I love about the practice and the personal practice of being with the bowl is for people that don't feel like they can be in what they would consider to be a traditional form of meditation, and that doesn't speak to them. The working with the bowls feels like meditation to me, like another form of meditation.
Mm.
And you said something to me when we were in session that's really stuck with me, which is there's power in creating your own stillness. So talk to me more about that, about how
Yeah.
you use sound and the bowls to cultivate that practice and be more comfortable with it.
Oh, comfortable. Yeah, that's the key word there, isn't it? Because a lot of people are not comfortable in stillness or just being. And I think because, yeah, we're, everyone's go, 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 it's very hard for a lot of people. And again, it's a
We don't
practice.
value it.
No.
We only value forward, movement,
Mm-hmm.
achieve, more, doing, doing, doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we consider, or we're trained to, or that it's laziness, or that it's inertia, or, and we just don't value or consider that that's time well spent.
Absolutely. I think when you are using the bowls, like you said, as a form of meditation, and it absolutely is, sound is meditation, and you're not creating music with a bowl, it is just purely sound and you're listening. So it's different to putting on some music and relaxing. So when you're working with a bowl and listening to a bowl, you're listening to a sound and then the sound waves or vibrations that are coming from that bowl. And if you do it in a very melodic, repetitive way, that becomes a meditation. And it's very accessible for people because some people don't follow a guided meditation, or they can't sit in silence. And so I guess the act of, if you are holding a bowl and doing that for yourself, it is a form of being present in the moment, mindfulness, but you're also meditating as well. And what I love is just the fact that you're sitting there in one spot, doing something that's very repetitive. I almost see that as stillness. Because
Yeah, no, I'm loving this. Tell me more about that.
Because what you're doing is you are, let's say you sit there for 5 minutes, you're starting to entrain the brain waves, like I said before. And the act of slowing down the brain waves is allowing that mental clutter. And it doesn't always happen, but our brains are designed to think, right? So you're always going to be thinking. That's what they do. But to be able to start to allow that, I guess, mental noise to start to settle so that you feel calmer, in that moment, I believe that is a point of stillness that people can work with. So you may
Yes.
not necessarily be sitting in silence or being still, because the reality is we're surrounded by noise, right? So you're in your house, you might have the TV going, or you can hear the refrigerator or the air conditioner. So we always have noise bombarding us. And it's one of our senses that we can't turn off. But it's about filtering what it is that we are listening to. And having a bowl allows us to, I guess, to filter out that noise. So you could make that an analogy to the mental clutter in the mind, right? And when you reach that place of stillness, that's when I think all the magic happens. And some people might notice that things might pop up for them. Maybe ideas or thoughts that they're like, oh, that's interesting. I've never really thought about that before. Why has that popped into my mind? And then that's kind of where things start to spark and ignite. And that's what that's that place that I love to be in.
Oh, I love sparking. I love igniting. Those are words that feel very activating and very exciting to me. And allowing those things to present themselves to you and come to the fore.
Mm-hmm.
I was really interested in what you were saying before about the difference between sound and music. So when you develop this personal practice with sound and you're using it as an instrument and as a tool and a healing modality, how do you hear music differently?
Oh, that is a really good question. I don't often listen to music now.
Ooh, tell me about that.
So if I'm, people think I'm a bit strange, but when I'm in the car, I don't actually have the radio on.
Strange. Please fly your freaky flag with me. Make me feel more normal.
I drive with no music on. I drive just driving. So I very rarely have songs on in the car. And that's only kind of like changed maybe in the last 5 or 6 years. So, whereas I used to listen to music quite a lot, but now I don't. When I listen to music, what happens to me is...
I've got to go back and know what changed, because you've been doing this practice for many years now. What changed?
I don't know. I just think...
Was it the pandemic? Was it COVID? I'm thinking about what happened 5 years ago.
No,
I don't know.
I just think that I value the time for myself to be in a space where there's nothing else. And I mean, I know I'm driving and there's stimulate, the cars are driving past and all that. But
what changed and what prompted that? Do you recall? Can you pinpoint something? Or?
No. I mean, I did a lot of driving to and from Adelaide. That's where I'm originally from. Yeah. And in those drives, the digital radio didn't work. So I was forced to sit in silence. And now I'm happy sitting in silence. So maybe it is that practice of happy to be,
That makes sense. And then you have this rich, beautiful time with yourself in silence.
Yeah.
With your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So now when you choose to listen to music, what does that feel like?
It feels a little strange, because for me, a lot of music or songs they associate a period of time for me. So I will bring up a memory. It'll remind me of something, whether that's good or bad. And I think because there is maybe emotion attached to the song because of something happened, an event or something, I I find that interesting that I've associated, and there'll be periods of time where things will be happening and a song will be on, and you'll be like, I remember the time that I heard this song for the first time, and this is what happened. And I guess for me, because of that association, I prefer not to listen to music.
Oh, God, this is so interesting to me because this is why I listen to music.
Yeah.
I find that such a point of connectivity to my well
Yeah.
of emotions. And so this is just bringing up so much. I've got so many things swirling around in me right now. This is just so juicy in the sense of claiming and cherishing your particular relationship with sound and with music.
Mm.
And allowing yourself to have your relationship with it, regardless of what other people's relationship looks like.
Absolutely.
I've never thought about that before. Thank you for bringing that inquiry into my life, because I've only ever thought about it as hearing abled or hearing impaired, you know? Like, and yes, we all hear the music differently and all those sort of esoteric concepts, but in an embodied way, that relationship with sound and music. Oh, I'm going to be swimming around with that for a long time. This is just so juicy. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I feel bad I interrupted you before because I was so excited to ask you, and you were on this kind of line of inquiry, and now we've lost it, and I desperately want to pull it back. I don't know if you recall what you were talking about.
I mean, what I was going to say is my husband, he is a massive music lover. He loves music, grew up with music. He goes to concerts on his own because I don't want to go with it, like it's almost like chalk and cheese. And he gets his joy from music, and it makes, if he's having a bad day, he'll put something on that will make him feel better. And I'm sure a lot of people would do that. But for me, if I'm having a bad day, I will get out my bowl and I will just listen to sound because of the way that it calms me down and brings me into a neutral state. So it's really interesting how you can use different tools for different things and to make you feel a certain way.
Yeah. And again, allowing your husband to have his relationship with sound and music and you to have yours, and whatever works is great. Oh, I want to ask you about the difference between being in session with one other person, knowing your own energy, as you were saying before, and then being so attuned to what those 7 bowls sound like that you know the slightest little difference, and you know that it's about that person and what you need to realign in them or listen to in them. How is it different when you're with a group of people and you're playing the bowls and there's a whole, there's 10 people in the room, for example, because you do group sessions at your studio. What is that like for you as a practitioner? I can tell you what it's like for me lying there with other people, but what's it like for you? How does your tuning or your sense of your attunement, is that the right way to ask you that? How does that change for you?
Well, for starters, it keeps things really interesting, which is nice.
Oh, bet. Is it like having 10 people's energy voices in your head? What is it like for you?
It's actually interesting because there will be it's almost like a collective energy. So I treat it as one, but the bowls will kind of still tell me what's happening collectively in the room. So I may not necessarily know who it might be, and there might be like several people that it relates to, or it could just be one person. But the bowls will tell me, and typically what happens is everybody will get something of that particular bowl. So if there is a bowl that is not sounding quite right, I typically will pick that up and I go around and do a little sweep over everyone just to clear the energy field. But I do it to everyone as for a collective kind of clearing, if that makes sense. Yeah,
you do. Yes. I'm interested in this phrase, if a bowl isn't sounding quite right. If you're in a room of people, how does the bowl ever sound quite right? What do you mean by that? You know what I mean? Like, I know
Yeah.
you know what the bowl sounds like, but if we've got 10 people feeling grief, anger, unsettlement, or whatever it might be, does it ever sound right in a group of people?
I mean, it eventually will, because of the amount of time that you
Yeah.
play the bowl. And I
Oh,
guess
I
when
see
you're
what you
playing,
mean.
yeah,
Yeah.
so when I'm playing, intention is very, very important. So the intention that is coming from me when I'm striking the bowl to create the sound and vibration is carried on that vibration that then reaches the person receiving it. So my intention is always to clear and for the highest good of not only whoever it is receiving it, but for the collective group. And so intention is very important when you're playing, regardless whether it's for yourself or in a group environment or one-on-one. So the bowls either will quickly go back to like what I normally hear is the bowl sounding like, or it'll be the whole session and nothing will change. And then it's a matter of, well, you did your best, but there is lots of stuff happening, and, you know, maybe that's not the time. Maybe that person or whoever it is, whatever's happening for a certain number of people in the room, maybe they, you know, need to come back for a one-on-one, or they need to do their own sort of like work in that area. But when I am working in a group, it is very generalized. It's not specific like you would be doing in a one-on-one, just because people are there ultimately for relaxation and to sort of like settle everything down. But, you know, it does keep things very interesting because, yeah, there might be 3, 4, 5 bowls at the start that all are completely and utterly not responding how they normally sound. And, you know, it might take the whole entire time to clear those. And then the way that you play and the way that you are, I guess, creating the soundscape, let's call it, for people to receive is going to be completely different every time, because everybody's energies are different. They're all intermingling. And creating one big kind of like energy bubble in the room, essentially. So that's kind of like how I see it.
Yeah. As you were speaking, what was coming up for me was almost like jazz improvisation, that you're improvising with the bowls, with the sound, with the energy, which we're all doing all the time when we're in relationship with anybody else. We just may not be cognizant of that. But it's a really beautiful image. I want to ask you about something you said a moment ago about boundaries and about recognizing what's yours to hold and what isn't as a practitioner, that you can't fix everything, that you did your best. How do you hold that in the moment before the postmortem after the session? You know, when you're feeling or hearing a dissonance or the bowls being sort of out of tune, for want of a better expression. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but in the moment, just redirecting yourself to allow things to shift where they're going to shift. How do you mindfully do
So
that?
I guess I see myself as somebody that holds space for people to come in and experience, rather than trying to fix people, because people are doing their own healing themselves or their own processing themselves. And that's something that I can't do. What I'm doing is I am facilitating that space and working with their energy and doing my part. So for me, there's a level of trust in myself. So trusting my gut and trusting my tools that I work with. So the bowls, and listening and having that rapport with my tools that I intimately know so well, that I can trust the process and I can allow whatever it is that needs to happen in the session happen, because I'm very in tune with what I'm listening to and how I'm working with those bowls. I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. You what I'm hearing is you keep your practice really clean with clear intentions. Is
Absolutely.
what I heard from that and from a lot of what you've been saying, which is really beautiful. So what excites you about what's next in terms of how you can help people experience sound and then use it as a vehicle for their own healing?
I just think that sound is such a big space. And I feel like I am just like, I have like just a little dip in the pond, you know, like there is so much to learn. And I mean, I just work primarily with the Tibetan bowls, and I just think that everyone needs one. I just think it is a tool that everyone should have, not only because it's really great to be able to access the vibration and sound, to be able to help calm your own brain waves when maybe something else is not able to do that for you. But I think that sound comes in many different varieties and forms. And for myself, I am kind of excited to play around with how I can use what I have now, so the bowls, but then adapting it into some of the technology that we have in the studio as well, so our vibroacoustic therapy. And I think for me, how I can create some of the experiences from the bowls and then translating that into the vibroacoustic therapy or our sound lounges is probably something that I'm eager to explore in the future. So we'll see how, I'm not sure how that's going to look or what that's going to happen, but I think that's something that's quite exciting. And
it
more,
is. It will evolve where it evolves.
Absolutely. And, you know, I mean, I would just love to, you know, everyone to learn about the bowls and come and experience them. And just, you know, a lot of what I do is educating people. So a lot of people don't know about them. A lot of people do know about them.
Or they're sitting on a shelf as an ornament.
Exactly. And I dare say a lot of them would be.
Yeah. Like they were for you, like they were for me. Like, you know, I remember going to Nepal and having almost the same experience as you, going, oh, yeah, I'll buy one of those, you know.
It'll just look pretty for a while.
Right? Yeah. That
Absolutely.
was cool. You know, yeah. Gosh, it's just so funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, gosh, I'm so excited to see how this evolves for you and what you do next. I loved the combination of the light therapy with the sound. So does that interest you to expand that relationship?
I think what excites me is that everything that I kind of work with is energy. And so the different forms of energy, whether that be light or sound or, you know, quantum energy or whatever it is, that excites me. And so, you know, particularly with light, and how it helps with different properties. So, or how we're feeling, it helps with our, you know, mental or emotional states is really cool. And being able to have that adding on to the bowls or the Reiki or the modalities that we do work with, just adds on something else. So I love finding out new things and new technologies and the way that people work with different forms of light or sound, or whether it's some sort of wave of some description. Yeah, I'm not sure what else is out there. I need to start exploring again, but
Oh, listen, as you say, it's such a big space, and there's so many fabulous things going on. So I mean, I'm excited to see and experience it for myself at your studio. Oh gosh, I just love talking about all of this with you. It's so beautiful. And you're a lovely intuitive practitioner. It's I'm so happy you're in Melbourne. Lucky me. Lucky me. So I always close every episode with the same question, which is, when you have a dream in your heart and you don't feel like you have what it takes to make it happen, what do you say to yourself? What do you say to your clients?
That's a really great question to start with. I say, you already know. It's just a matter of moving the clutter out of the way so that you can shine your brightest form. And it will be done.
Oh, I love it. Oh, thank you for spending this time with me. I just feel so nourished.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, I love how she's working with different energies and frequencies with sound and light in our bodies, and thinking about Tibetan bowls as musical instruments and healing tools, and how she's using the bowls as diagnostic tools, working with the 7 bowls and the 7 main notes in the musical scale, and each of those notes being associated with one of the 7 chakras in the body, and how the Tibetan system works with fifths, whereas the crystal bowls use the diatonic scale with a tone between each chakra, and how the Tibetan bowls make those harmonizing sounds that help us relax and get into the slumber state for the most rejuvenation. I just find it fascinating how she's listening to the sound and vibrations of the bowls and how they're interacting with our energetic fields to identify what needs to be cleared and balanced and restored. And I really appreciate the power of developing a personal practice with the singing bowl. I'm very much in the infancy of my discoverability with that process. But gosh, have I experienced how every Tibetan bowl is unique, like a fingerprint, like she was talking about, because they're handcrafted. And the sound does change depending on how you play the bowl and the energy state and the emotional state that you're in. And the bowl really does choose you. I certainly have experienced that. But it was interesting what she was saying about how the sound that resonates with you on a particular day often corresponds to the energy center that needs attention. And the bowls are very grounding. And the sound does bring you out of your head and into your body. I love how she really uses it. What did she say? When I'm having a bad day, I get my bowl out and just listen to the sound, and it calms me down and brings me into a neutral state. And I have really experienced the personal practice of playing the bowls, teaching me patience and listening in the present. Like she was saying, to embrace the slow and steady pace. That if you learn to stop and listen to the sound vibrations that start to dissipate into silence, there's a point where the bowl is ready to be played again. You can't rush the bowl or you get unpleasant sounds. It's a great metaphor for life, isn't it? She say the practice of listening to the sound waves and vibrations that they start to slow down and become silent trains the brain waves to slow down. And then the mental clutter dissipates so you can get into a state of relaxation, access your creativity, and allow your intention to come through. And how playing the bowl teaches us to create our own stillness. That when you play it in a melodic, repetitive way, it becomes a meditation. So it is a really lovely, accessible way to be mindful and present in the moment if you can't sit in silence and don't respond to traditional meditation. And how she's thinking of playing the bowl as a way to filter out the noise and bring more focus to what we're listening to. that when we reach a place of stillness, that's when things start to spark and ignite. I love how she was talking about using sound as a portal to access our creativity. And I have experienced that when you're feeling stuck and stagnant, sound therapy is a fantastic way to restore flow. And I really appreciated what she was saying about the importance of understanding your own energy and vibration. So you can not only tune into what you need, but also be mindful of the energy of others and being aware of the sound and energy landscape of the environment you're in, so you can be more intuitive about where you fit into that. And gosh, when we were talking about the difference between sound and music, I'm going to be thinking about that a lot now in a different way, about what my embodied relationship is with sound and music and how I listen and hear and respond differently than I did years ago, and how I might respond differently than other people that I know. So I'd be really interested in your thoughts about that. And trusting yourself and your intuition. You know what to do. Just move the clutter out of the way so you can shine. Oh, I feel like a plant that's been watered. So connect with Kelly at solywellness.com.au. All the links are in the show notes. And I'd love to hear what your experience is with sound healing, if you've had any experiences, and what resonated with you from this conversation. So leave a review and post something in the Facebook group. I'd love to hear about it.
I want to hear about your It Has to Be Me story. So head on over to ithastobeme.com/stories to share it in our free community. You can also join the conversations we're having about this episode and others. I'm Tess Masters. Join me next week and we'll dive inside another great story to help us go from dreaming to doing.